Together, we create what's next.
I guess I will just say welcome to the podcast. To start off, how about you introduce yourself and just say a little bit about your background, where you're from, what you've done, and what you're doing now.
Okay, thanks. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. My name is Ricardo Aguilar. I'm from Honduras. I am basically a tech entrepreneur, startup founder, happy to be in this era in time kind of person. But about my background, I've always had a little itch for tech since I was in high school. So along the way, I started mixing tech stuff with sales. I love sales also. And along the way, in 2009, I started my first tech project with a friend. We had a little business. It was a digital touch directory, worked pretty well. And then after that, I had the chance to work at the largest bank in the country. That was a really good experience. Pretty much right up from the start, I was involved in tech projects, big implementations that, it got me to travel around the world and know a lot about tech, meet a lot of people, do a lot of networking. It was a very, very important school for me in terms of learning how, the whole process around technology works. I ended up being the systems analysis manager for the bank. I was also the digital and physical channels manager for the bank, and I was there for around 8 years. Then at some point, you go a little bit crazy and you say, how about I try to do something for myself? I had these friends, they had a tech company, it was a development company, and I brought them to the bank as service providers. But they were lacking project management, sales, and all of that stuff. So I decided to quit the bank and go work with them. It was very risky. My son had just been born, but sometimes you got to risk it. You got to take the leap. It was good. The company had a lot of good contracts, and along the way, that helped us put some of that money into developing a new startup, which was a delivery company. We launched the app right before the pandemic started. It was crazy. The pandemic was really fun because delivery was everything. We were the only 100% Honduran-made delivery app in the country at a time where you had more than 30 apps competing in the market. But then after a year and a half, we were only like 5 apps left. We survived the pandemic, but delivery is not the most fun business in terms of profitability. It's not meant to be profitable, really. So at some point, you either get capital somehow, get investment, or you have to just go. So we had a good break because the bank where I used to work at, they have a mobile wallet, and they wanted to integrate different services into the wallet. So they saw the delivery as something that could help them, gain more users because it was growing still at the time. And they decided to buy the company, the platform from us. So that was our first exit. In the middle of that, we were building another company. It was another startup, which I had the chance to be CEO of. Also, I was there for around 2 years, a little bit more. And it was also a very good experience. We built the company from scratch. We had good customers. And, I had been with the same partners for some time now. So I thought maybe it's time for me to do my own thing. So I set up my own IT consulting company. And since last year, I've been working on that. So I've learned how the market works a little bit. I'm working on some projects, but also I'm doing some consulting contracts with corporations, small, big companies. It's not that easy here in the country, especially. First of all, because the context. We are not that big of a country, and the digital context, the tech context of a country is even smaller. The other thing is that there's pretty much no investment culture here in the country. You have to go to someone who has money, but mostly it's like a corporate structure or like a bank. They want 51% of everything because they want to have control. So it's not that easy. We don't have structures like LLCs in the US. So you have to look for some workarounds, and it's complicated. But I think there's still a lot of opportunity. I have a very good background in fintech, which is it's always breaking ground in third world countries like ours. So that's where I'm at right now, and just trying to look for new opportunities.
So that's very interesting. How do you feel that tokenization and crypto is affecting or penetrating the market?
I think as a region right now, we are kind of divided in that sense, because you take a country like El Salvador, for example, and you see what the approach has been from the government in that sense. It has opened up a lot of opportunities. It has opened up, different structures in terms of how crypto can be integrated into government services, into people's everyday life. It was the first country in the region to accept Bitcoin as a payment form. It's been going back and forth. They have a lot of money in Bitcoin right now, but then you come to Honduras, and we are in the middle of a political turmoil right now. Elections are coming up. This government has been very different from past governments. So the focus on the crypto world, tokenization, has not been what it should be, because I think that we don't have the people that have the necessary knowledge to be able to understand how important this can be for government security, for private security, in terms of documents, in terms of information. I think they're not grasping how important it could be. And then, on the other hand, you have the political aspect of it. You lived this here. We had a go with that when you were trying to work with a platform here in the country, and there's always someone trying to get something out of everything in the political spectrum. So I think there's a lot of opportunity if you focus it the right way. And I think the private sector right now is the way to go, because a lot of things that end up happening in the government come from the private sector first implementing them, and they just kind of push things into the government. So I think that's where we're at in that sense.
So has your business been impacted by AI, or have you seen AI kind of like penetrate the country or affect certainly tech, but even the financial sector?
Yeah, financial sector, it hasn't been that much, because we are a country with so many regulations that to change something, it takes time. But AI, in terms of my business, yeah. To give you an example, development right now, it's not what it used to be even 3 years ago. It's easier to develop something using AI. So you have to start catching up to it. I think you have to refocus and try to use all these tools to be able to deliver things faster, more efficiently. But I think in the middle of that, AI has not been able to replace the understanding of the customer. When you talk about custom development, if you talk about something like a website, yeah, AI can do things really quickly, makes it more efficient. You can get more things done in less time, and you can be more profitable in less time. But then when it comes down to sitting with a customer and understanding what they want and being able to give them a tool that's gonna really make an impact and differentiate them in the market, I think that has not been replaced by AI yet. Because on the customer side and on the corporate side, it doesn't really matter the size of the business. They still don't know how to come to AI and prompt it to get what they need. So as a tech person with a business, you can take a lot of advantage with AI. It can reduce costs, but then you are still selling your knowledge. You're still selling that, I would say, like that comfort that you can give the customer of, you don't have to learn about this, don't worry. You can tend to your business, let me work it out, and I'll give you something that's going to be efficient and that you need. But yeah, it is having an impact. Even though, like I said, the tech world in our country is not that big yet, there's a lot of, the young people that are going into dev and tech, they are obviously looking at things from an AI standpoint. But yeah, in terms of financial sector, it's going to take some time.
Are you seeing any pushback?
Yes, because I think there's a lot of uncertainty. I think, well, people still confuse Bitcoin with blockchain. You tell them blockchain and they say, oh, Bitcoin. No, it's not the same thing. There has to be a regulation for these things. And the problem is that when you remove the human aspect of it, it makes it more difficult to sway it or control it, how it benefits the government. You still have a lot of pushback with banks doing things on the cloud, for example. The banking commission here still wants to see your servers farm right there in some bunker because they need to see that. You'd say cloud and they get spooked. So it's going to take some time, but I think we're getting there. And I think one of the things that is going to move us towards that is that now fintech is more globalized. I think that's really important. You have, the biggest income that the country has in terms of financials from outside the country's remittances. And up till 2 or 3 years ago, you were seeing that we were still very traditional in that sense. People went either to the remittances companies, the big ones, to get the money out, get the cash out, go back to their house, or they went to the bank. Right now, you're seeing like more apps and more services that are not from Honduras, they're from outside, but they have the ability to connect to the banks and deliver these services. So I think that that incursion of fintech products from outside, at some point, it's going to have to make the regulators turn their attention to that, because if not, the banks are going to start losing commissions, and when the banks start losing, you got to do something because banks can't lose. Yeah.
So there is a thing that I've been getting into, really, I would say, in the last couple of months, but more so really in the last couple of weeks, because of the new company that I joined, and they're working on quantum security for payments. And quantum is one of those things that I think everybody has heard of because it's been around since like Star Trek. And so it's not a scary word like crypto or tokenization. They hear quantum, they're like, wow, that sounds like some sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
So everybody heard about it, but nobody really understands it. Do you see that in your space, and especially in the financial space? Because the reality is, once that quantum tech gets to a certain level, and I see that in a couple of years, maybe 10 at the most, uh, if if the assets are not properly protected, they're hacked like this. and
Yeah.
all your crypto is gone, all your bank accounts is gone, like everything's gone. Anything that's digital, forget about it. It's gone. Like they can just anybody can hack it, whoever has that tech. And so that is something that it's kind of still very early on, kind of like crypto was 8 years ago. But people that are in the space, they kind of already are starting to talk about it. It's just not mainstream yet. So how do you see that in developing in Honduras?
You know, I think there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of fraud and phishing and stuff like that happening here. And the thing is that if banks don't get up to date, at some point, someone is going to turn their eye to the banks here and they're going to find a way to hack them. And the problem is that the regulators here don't have the strength of, regulators in the US, for example, legally, technically, to be able to help a bank recover or something like that. It's not that easy. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. I think financial security in terms of information, accounts, etc., is very critical in our region. I think we are a big target for that. Not because there's so many people here, but because it's more vulnerable. It's easier to do. You see big frauds happening here, and most of the time the bank just has to absorb the loss because someone found a loophole, and it's not that hard to find those loopholes. And there's one thing that I always tell whenever I talk to someone from outside Honduras or from the U.S., investors or people involved in VCs, angels, and all that space. I always tell them, if you look at Central America, you shouldn't look at it as individual countries. You should look at it as a region because in regards to regulation, in regards to how we do business, we have a lot of similarities. So it's not the same thing to talk about 10 million people in Honduras as it is to talk about almost 100 million people in the region. Well, there's a big market there, and there's an opportunity. And that's why I think you don't need to focus country per country. You need to see it as like a big chunk of opportunities because it's not difficult to move from one country to another to begin with. And second of all, like I said, we share a lot of cultural traits. We share a lot of ways to do business. So I think there's a chance, there's an opportunity. I think we can be a good guinea pig for things that they want to test because also we're not that big. So even though the risk for an institution here might be big in terms of what it represents for them in the country, for someone that's coming from outside, if they can somehow mitigate that risk, it's not that big. It's not the same thing to try to do a pilot for something at a bank here as if you wanted to do it like in a Wells Fargo in the US or a Bank of America. It's not the same thing. It's not the same dimension. So we have to move towards that. We have to. Financial globalization is going to come, and at some point it's going to hit us in the face. And if we're not ready, we're going to go down. And I don't see it far away from the point where we have even US banks doing operations here because there's a digital way to do it, because they don't need to be here physically. So I think we have to start moving that way and looking for other options that give us, like a little bit of an edge, maybe.
Do you see when it comes to like remittances and those type of services, do you see more people using physical cards, or they still prefer cash, or are they already comfortable with just doing phone taps?
I think people are starting to adopt cards. There's a notion that most of the people who receive remittances are people from the countryside, or they're peasants, you could say. But No, that has changed. You see people, a lot of people living in the city. A lot of them are women that they have a job, they work at a bank, they work at a school, they have like formal jobs. But then, the pandemic hit, there was a lot of issues with employment. So the man of the house had to go to the US and find a job. But they're not sending the money back to people that are not adopting technology. They're sending the money back to people who are actually looking for easier ways to adopt technology, because they don't want to go to the bank and waste an hour and a half just to get the money out of the bank. They don't want to carry cash around because it's uncomfortable, because if you get mugged, there goes your remittance. So I think it's a transition. I think right now people are starting to adopt cards, prepaid cards for these services, bank debit cards. But also, if wallets start looking for more efficient ways to take that to the customer, I think that can grow. Right now, the last year's financial inclusion report from the Banking Commission, physical withdrawal of money still represented like 82%. But now you have differentiated channels up to an 18%, which you didn't see 3 years ago. It was like a 7%. So it's growing. Maybe not at the quickest pace, but it's growing. And I think that's where banks have to start drawing their attention, because the other thing is that for the bank, it's also not that profitable that you go to the branch to withdraw the money. The way the banks work here is different from the US. You go to the US and the bank is pretty much empty in terms of people doing transactions. There's more people doing business, looking for a business rep, or looking to, I don't know, for an executive for a loan or something like
Loans,
that.
yeah.
Here, the bank is full of people doing transactions. And that's not profitable for the bank. So the bank needs to find ways to get people out of the branch and take them to digital channels. But the rigidness in terms of regulation doesn't help. So that's when you have these wallets that are telling people, don't go to the branch, go to the gas station, go to your mini market, and get your money out. And I think that we're going to see a big growth. Remittances are growing every year. Last year, I think we closed at $9.3 billion in remittances. That's like 18%, if I'm not mistaken, of the GDP of the country. And I think this year, we're projected to hit around $11 billion in remittances. So
even more than last year, despite all the Trump rules and all the extraditions.
yeah, because you need to consider this. People are more scared of being, not extradited, it's being deported.
Yeah, deported.
They are
I
starting,
didn't want to.
yeah, so they're starting to take more of their money and sending it here,
Mm-hmm.
because they know if they get deported,
Yeah, then there's no way.
Yeah, they can't get access to that money. So ever since, I think it was March or April, where deportation started to get a little bit more extensive, you saw a bigger flow of remittances. And I think part of it is that, people that have a bank account over there, or they just had the money somewhere in the house stashed because they couldn't open a bank account. No, they're starting to send it here, because they say, if I get caught in the street, I have no way to get to my money. So I think that's part of the reason. And probably next year is gonna go down a little bit. So, but still, you're talking $11 billion, $9 billion. From the standpoint of the size of the market that we have, if you can get to, I don't know, even 2% of that, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
a lot of money.
it's based on the population, that's like $100 a person.
Yeah. And
So It's not
And
so
like
bad.
I said before, if you consider it as a region,
Oh, sorry, it's not $100. It's 1,000. It's
yeah,
9
right,
billion. Yeah, it's $1,000 a person. That's a lot.
yeah. And if you see it from the regional standpoint, even if you take just the North Triangle, you take Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, we're talking about more than $40 billion in remittances in a year. So
Right.
imagine if you could digitally do something that'll encourage people to use your channel, and then you can take 5% of that. You know, that's a lot of money that you can make in a year.
Well, I mean, 5% of the fees, not the total. I don't think they would just give you 5% of the
Oh yeah,
of the total. Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, it's still, you know, it's something considerable. If you compare it to how much you need to invest.
Right. It's the cost versus reward is
Yeah.
quite astronomical. So you don't see that cards like actual credit card issuance is as attractive as just doing an app or even cash.
I think, okay, here's the thing. Credit scoring right now here is only dependable on what the institutions that do credit scoring tell the bank for
Is
them
it
to
like
be.
the US for the credit score or no?
No, it's different. It's different. For example, you go to Bank of America, you open an account, and then for some time you keep, an average of $5,000 in that account. At some point, the bank says, you keep a good amount of money in the bank, and it's constant, so you can get a credit card, and they give you a credit card based on that. It doesn't work like that here. Here, you need to have, first of all, you need to have a credit record. So you need to find a company that's willing to give you credit, even though you don't have a credit record. And when you talk about income regarding remittances, it's even more difficult to get any kind of credit. But then if you build a company, or if you set up a company that can do all of this risk assessment digitally and is willing to take a little bit more risk, you can get a lot of credit from people. And you wouldn't think so, but the remittance lower segment is very responsible in terms of paying things. And this is why the banks and the financial institutions that give credits to these people are the ones that charge the highest interest rates. You have interest rates of even 92% a year. And
That's
I know
almost
that,
100.
yeah, I know that
You
sounds
pay
low.
back double basically.
Yeah, in a year, you pay back double. And then if you don't pay for some time, you get harassed, and literally harassed. You get people outside your house yelling at you that you haven't paid. They go to your job, they
That's
put
crazy.
notes on your car, on your doorstep. It's crazy. So it makes these people be really afraid of failing to pay. So they are actually more responsible. So imagine if you took all these people that are paying 60, 70, 80% interest rates, and then you tell them, we trust you, and we can give you a 25% interest rate, which I know in terms of the US, it's still like very big, but it's kind of like in the average of interest rates here. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, and then it doesn't necessarily have to be a card. You can do credit upon products. You can tell people, you can get a credit and you can get, I don't know, a motorcycle, or you can get.
But is that more localized to the businesses, or is that it's still managed by the banks or the financial institutions or Fintech companies?
Sorry, come again.
So is that more managed by fintech or by banks, or is it actual the business, like a car company giving you a credit line to buy the car?
Oh, what they do is that they set up their own financial company. They're not necessarily a bank. They just set up a financial company to be able to give credit. But a
For
lot of,
their own products.
yeah, of their own
Hmm.
products. But there's still not someone that has come and said, I can have access to the database of all people that receive remittances, and I can see their behavior. I can see how much money they receive every month. So based on that, I could take a good segment and start testing the market, giving them soft credits to see how they behave. And I can assure you, these people are really responsible with payments.
Hmm.
You wouldn't think so, but they are. And it has to be something disruptive, that does not apply only, like you said, it's not just a credit from the same company that's selling you the good and nothing backed up by a bank, because then you need a lot of copies of a lot of stuff. You need to wait 2 weeks. It's crazy. It doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
So I think there's a good chance. And like I said, again, you don't think just about a country. You can think about a set of countries.
It's basically about the same type of legislation and the same type of. I know the culture is the same. Obviously, the language is the same. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but
Okay.
it's very similar.
Sounds good. So what is the tech that you're doing now? I know you want to talk a little bit about your business, or the consulting one, or the other one that you have.
Um, we have a couple of projects, like own projects. There's a platform that we're working on right now to do polling, and not just polling for elections or for political purposes, but just in general to get information from the market. And the thing is that we're incorporating AI to do all the data analytics, to do biometric analytics, which is something that you don't see right now in the country. And there's a big market for that. With marketing agencies, they need real data, they need more trusting data, and there's a good opportunity there. So that's one of the projects we're working in, with starting a pilot with a kiosk that's going to be set up in malls, shopping centers. It can be moved from one place to another just to get traffic info. What are people buying? Where are they buying? Give them coupons, discounts, and just get market analytics data. Do the demographics on them, and use AI to be able to analyze behavior from people. And that way you can tell the customers, you can tell the stores that are at the mall, this is the best moment of the month to bring out sales. Or people are buying, they're going into your store because they see sales, but they are not actually buying from the sales. They're buying stuff that was not on sale. So why is that? We can figure that out. Uh, that's one of the things that we're working at right now. I think that's the one that we're putting out the most effort in. And then a couple of apps just for everyday stuff. There's a big market here in the SME segment that's not being tended to, because the big tech companies, and I say tech because a lot of these big players, they just sell licensing. So you have them
Hmm.
selling stuff from Oracle, Microsoft, SAP, it's stuff that an SME is never going to pay for.
Hmm.
So we are trying to um, give all these people tools that can help them, work better.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I know some of the companies you mentioned, some of these licenses they charge quite a lot. That it's at that point, I think it's just cheaper to make your own.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. I mean, it's crazy, but a lot of these companies, they're looking for government contracts, and that's what they live off of. So
Mhm.
yeah, there's a chance. there's a big market segment of companies that don't have someone from IT, and they need tools. They need tools to improve their business. They need tools to make it more efficient, to make it run better, and they need someone to tell them what's the software that's going to be more suitable for what they want to do. So that's where I come in. I worked with more than 100 companies while I was at the bank, looking at offers, knowing what they sell, how they sell it. So I know when some company is trying to rip off someone, it's easy for me to identify it, because that was like my bread and butter at the bank. Part of my day, just getting proposals from providers and telling me, yeah, you're full of it, man. Yeah, it's not gonna work.
Have you seen the government being more receptive to things as far as technology goes, or is it still difficult to do any business with them?
Right now, at this point in time, I think it's a little bit difficult. First of all, because of the political context that we're in. Although this government has digitalized things a little bit more. The problem is that they always do things within their own little bubble of people that I trust and people that I know that, we can share a little bit of the price that we're going to pay. So that's why I was saying, I think it is a better approach to go to the private sector first. And if something at the private sector is working more efficiently, then these people are going to go to the government and say, we're speeding things up and you're slowing us down. So you need to adopt something like this. So I think that's one of the ways that it could work out.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so I don't know if you have any other closing statements or any other topics you wanted to discuss.
I think, just let everyone know that there's a lot of opportunities here in Central America. We are not living in trees and living off the land. No, there's a good opportunity here. In terms of capabilities, we have a lot of good people working in technology. I have my own dev team, and the guys are really good. They're really up to date. Honest to God, we can compete with any guy from India. I'm not afraid of that.
And probably a lot easier now because of the whole visa situation that we have here.
Yeah,
so
that too.
Become a lot more competitive now.
Yeah, so I think it's gonna be the time for LATAM. This couple of years, I think we're gonna have a good chance. So if there's anyone that wants to do business in tech here, well, I'm up for it. You can contact me. Anton has my info, and
I'll post your info when once we post it, we'll have everybody's info there, so they'll be able to contact you directly.
Yeah, for whatever it works, I'm here, and thank you for the chance, Anton.
You're welcome.
We've been friends for some time now, trying to get projects working in the region. So yeah, thanks, man.
All right, thank you, and thank you for being on the first episode of the podcast.
No, man, thanks. Yeah.
Even though we had some technical difficulties with the camera and the background, but it's okay.
Yeah, that's the way it works. That's the way it works, man. Makes it more organic.
Well, it is literally that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you, and I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe you'll come to another podcast in the future.
Yeah. Sure. For sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Talk later. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.